Right. Good evening, Commissioners, staff and members of the public. I declare the Ordinary Council meeting of 10th December 2025 open at 5:32 p.m. I wish to acknowledge the Kariyarra people as the traditional owners of the land we're meeting on. I recognise their strength and resilience and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. This meeting is being live streamed and audio recorded to facilitate community participation and for minute-taking purposes, which may be released upon request to third parties. In accordance with Clause 6.16 of the Town of Port Hedland Standing Orders Local Law 2014, members of the public are not permitted to use any visual or audio, electronic device or instrument to record the proceedings of any meeting, unless that person has been given permission by the presiding member to do so. Members of the public are also reminded that in accordance with Clause 6.174 of the Standing Orders, mobile telephones must be switched off and not used during the meeting. I note that all Commissioners are present and their attendance will be listed under item 3.1 of the minutes. There are no attendances by telephone. CEO, do we have any apologies?
No apologies received at this time.
Thank you. Do we have any approved leaves of absence?
No leave of absence approved this time.
Does anyone wish to declare an interest for any of the items in the agenda this evening? Do we have any? Oh, we've already said leave of absence. Okay, I have a procedural motion to the order of business that Council amend the 10 December 2025 Ordinary Council meeting order of business as set out in Council Policy 1/017 to deal with item 8, announcements by presiding member without discussion, before item 5, response to previous questions. Can I have a seconder?
I will second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. Firstly, welcome folks, both here in the chamber and online. We're getting to the business end of the season. We did last night hold a sundowner to thank our many community partners for working with the town over the past year, and it was a lovely evening. And we do want to sincerely thank all the groups and organisations who continue to work with us so constructively. You'll notice that at each council meeting, we're continually trying to improve the way that the processes of council function. And last time we talked about the way we'll move motions. Tonight, we are preparing again for the new council's arrival, and we have a range of decisions, matters up for decision. Firstly, we'll be continuing to update the catalogue of outstanding and overdue policies. We'll be closing out the council improvement process that was instituted following a directive received from the Department of Local Government after a very tumultuous period for council. We will be considering an internal health check to independently investigate and prepare a report on the compliance and effectiveness of operational practices of the Town of Port Hedland. So whereas the former was about the conduct under the previous council, this latter report will be considering internal administrative arrangements to facilitate handover to the newly elected council and the permanent CEO. We also continue to move forward with the recruitment process for a CEO, recognising that stable, effective leadership will be integral to the town's success in 2026. As I say, each meeting we've sought to address different aspects of council conduct with the intent of developing best practice here at the town. Over our time here, and being mindful of past conduct, we've observed a range of practices around public question time and statements, and thought it might be useful to map out the provisions of the Act, regulations and standing orders to assist with the orderly conduct of meetings and to maximise the opportunity for all members of the community to participate in the many different forms of engagement with your council. So with regard to question time, the relevant provision of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996 are Regulations 5, 6 and 7. And they provide that question time is a minimum of 15 minutes that needs to be provided at the start of the meeting if members of the public are present. And an extension of this time is at the discretion of the chair, and under the standing orders can be up to an additional hour. Public question time must precede any matter requiring a council decision, and specifically, there's an equal opportunity provision. Members of the public must have a fair and equal opportunity to ask questions. Under the standing orders require that there be no more than 3 questions from any one individual. that questions are to be submitted in writing before the conclusion of public question time, and to provide all members of the public with a fair and equal opportunity to participate in question time, and to ensure an orderly meeting, questions should ideally be succinct and to the point. An opportunity is provided in public statement time for more fulsome presentations if a member of the community so wishes. Under provision 6.76, the chair decides whether questions are out of order if they are similar to a previously asked and answered question, if they're not in the form of a question or having regard to content and length, are essentially a statement or expression of an opinion rather than a question, if they do not relate to a matter of the local government, or if they use offensive, objectionable or defamatory language as determined by the chair. And in the case of a special meeting, if the questions do not relate to the purpose of that meeting. And responses to questions are not to be discussed. Questions submitted in writing prior to the meeting will be given priority to questions taken from the floor. With respect to complex matters, if individuals are seeking verbal answers to complex matters on the night of an ordinary council meeting, the most effective way to do this is to submit written questions in advance of the meeting, allowing the administration reasonable opportunity to conduct the necessary inquiries. This can be done through the town website or via email. On the night of the meeting, the chair has the discretion to answer the question then and there or refer it to staff at their discretion for an answer, or can determine that a question requires further research or cannot be answered satisfactorily at the meeting. Questions can then be taken as correspondence or taken on notice. All members of the public are encouraged to correspond with the council at any time with complex questions and matters, particularly those that involve extensive documentation or have long, complicated histories. This is the most effective way to engage with council and obtain the best possible responses. People can also request meetings with commissioners or staff to raise issues and are very welcome to correspond with the town to seek further details or to follow up on a verbal response received during an ordinary council meeting. If you have more than 3 questions, the standing orders exist to provide everyone with an equal opportunity to participate. So we kindly ask that everyone consider this when preparing their questions and act in a way that's respectful of everyone present in the chamber, both councillors, commissioners and other members of the public. While I am in the chair, I will be very mindful of the need to ensure fairness for all attendees and will hold firm to the 3-question provision. Please consider the many ways that you can engage with the town, including those I've outlined tonight, and our surveys and discrete consultations on a range of matters. If you have more than 3 questions or have follow-up questions to verbal responses provided on the night, you're very welcome to correspond with the town or attend the next meeting with additional questions. And I reiterate that questions can be submitted ahead of time for a verbal response on the night. When it comes to public statement time, under the standing orders, the chair is responsible for the conduct of public statement time. Statements to be no longer than 5 minutes, must relate to the business of local government. If it's a special meeting, they must relate to the business of that meeting. And again, public statements can be ruled out of order by the chair if they're similar to previous content from previous meeting and the person is directed to that answer, if the chair determines that a statement is offensive, objectionable or defamatory, or if this personal statement relates to the personal affairs or actions of a council member or employee. You can have further look at Standing Order Clauses 6 and 7. Deputations are also available on specific matters before council, and they can be up to 10 minutes in length. If you or your group wish to make a deputation, application must be made to the Mayor or Chair of Commissioners or to the CEO. And the Mayor, Commissioner or CEO will consider the request and invite the applicant to attend the meeting to make a deputation. On approaching the table and the tabling of documents, we've had concerns raised with respect to the staff safety implications of people walking behind or directly approaching the council table. As commissioners, we've also been briefed with respect to personal safety and security in the general conduct of our roles and council meetings. People are strongly encouraged to submit document packages associated with questions ahead of meetings in the first instance. This allows Council adequate time to review them. However, if a person does wish to table documentation at the ordinary Council meeting, these should be placed in the minute tracker tray located at the minute takers table, where it can be properly logged and received as correspondence. Members of the public should only approach the table during meetings with the leave of the chair. This is consistent with best practice across all levels and all institutions of government across not just Western Australia but the nation, and is to ensure the safe, secure and orderly conduct of meetings. I hope this overview is of assistance to the community and paves the way for more respectful, efficient and functional meetings, where as many people as possible have an opportunity to participate in the many processes of Council. We're in full planning mode now for the March election, and you'll see that at item 12.1.4, Council is invited to appoint the WAC to conduct the election. We encourage as many people as possible to participate in these elections, whether by nominating to run or voting. So look out for an information campaign in the new year. You'll note that this time we've asked for booths to operate in Port and South Hedland, aimed at maximising people's opportunity to participate. I'd also like to take a brief moment to thank the Town of Port Hedland staff for their response to the break-in at the South Hedland Aquatic Centre. I know, having spoken to staff members over the last 24 hours, that was quite upsetting. And I do know that there was an incredible amount of work that went into the clean-up. And so I'd just like to thank the staff for that. And they absolutely went to the nth degree to make sure that that facility was back on track for public availability. And we'd also like to thank the police, the local police, Town of Port Hedland's police, for their work as well. As this is the last Ordinary Council meeting for the year, we wish everyone a safe and happy festive season and thank the staff, commercial and community partners and the people of Port Hedland yet again for their support throughout 2025. Thank you very much. Now, all meetings for the months of November and December will be included in the agenda for the OCM to be held on the 28th of January 2026. This was on account of timing around the holiday period, I believe, CEO?
That's correct.
Okay, item 5, response to previous questions. Responses to questions taken on notice at the 26th November 25 Ordinary Council meeting have been included in the updated agenda, which can be seen online. Copies have been sent to public members and are available for viewing in the lobby tonight. Excuse me. Item 6, public time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of Council. Clause 6.73 of the Town of Port Hedland Standing Orders Local Law requires members of the public wishing to ask a question to complete a question form and place the completed form in the tray provided. If myself as presiding member determines that questions or statements are out of order due to the use of offensive or objectionable expressions or are defamatory, they will not be considered, recorded nor responded to. Public questions are allocated a minimum of 15 minutes under the Act. Public questions and statements received in writing will be provided the opportunity to present first, followed by other members of the public. So I declare public question time opened at 5:45. CEO, have we received any questions prior to the meeting?
Presiding member, no written questions have been received.
Thank you. Do any members of the public wish to ask questions? Thanks. Hi, please come forward, state your name and suburb, and remember to fill in a public question form if you haven't already done so.
My name's Mary Brown and I'm in South Hedland.
Oh, sorry, I don't think the microphone is on. Just bear with us. Oh, there we go. There we go. You're ready to go.
Cool. Maren Browning, South Hedland. Welcome to the meeting tonight. I've just got one question that I think will really not probably fall under your umbrella, but I would really love to have your support because I do believe it's actually not just our community, it's the Pilbara and any regional area probably that would be affected by this, is just to maybe if we can actually get some support in the airfares for the regional fairs. I do believe that they're looking to do an increase of 29%. Now, you know, for a family of, you know, a husband and a wife and 2 children that's looking to get back and forth from here to Perth is $3,000. That's just really unacceptable with the cost of living. So I would really hope that you could maybe respond with something on how you can help and assist us to keep them at that where they are at $2.99 each way.
Okay, look, thank you very much for the question. And back in 2017, my first job as the chair of the Economics and Industry Standing Committee was to chair the parliamentary inquiry into regional airfares. And so this is a subject matter that I have a lot of familiarity with. It is a complex matter, and I do understand that there's quite a bit of community concern about the uplift in what they're calling peak fares. We'll make the observation that inquiry we spent quite a bit of time up here in Port Hedland actually on that matter. And we pretty much visited every regional destination, and each community has subtly different market dynamics. Some are tourism destinations, some are FIFO destinations. That's a lot of the challenge up here. I do think that obviously, as I say, the announcements that have been made have been quite upsetting for many community members. It's nearly a decade since that inquiry was held. It was very hard as we went through that inquiry process to actually get a really clear line of sight to how the airlines actually cost the airfares. And I think given that given the level of community sentiment, it might well be worthwhile that the Economics and Industry Committee maybe have another look at this, that, you know, plus 10 years, is it still the case that these fares are being set reasonably, and is it still fair for the airlines to hold the positions that they take? So I'm certainly one, and very consistently, and I will say with the support of particularly the Nationals member of the committee, Terry Redman, he was the leader of the National Party, and this was a real pet issue of his too. You know, I'm all for more transparency and actually understanding what's going on here. So I acknowledge the concern within the community. I do think there's a need for transparency and understanding how were these fares set, and perhaps it is something that the Economics and Industry Committee should take a look at.
Yeah. Thank you. This is not a question though, it would be a suggestion.
Sure.
There is actually a petition going around, so it'd be really great if the town of Port Hedland could maybe publish that to get some more eyes on that petition to actually help our cause.
I'm not sure that that's typically something that a local government would do. Just with my, previous experience, as any sort of a public office bearer or any sort of a public institution, if it's a private petition going around, typically that wouldn't be something that a local government would necessarily circulate. So I think we would need to be incredibly cautious before agreeing to do that. However, I'm quite sure, and being very aware of just how active a social media community Port Hedland is, I'm quite sure there'll be people out there already circulating, probably with a much greater reach than the town of Port Hedland would have on its own, through its own networks.
It would just be nice to be supported by the town of Port Hedland for that though. That's all, and it's recreational, so you do cover that, just saying. So that's my first question, so thank you for that, I appreciate that.
Well, technically it's 2, but yep.
Pardon?
It's technically 2, so yeah.
All right, well, I'll blend the next 2 into 1 then. Okay, so this is probably through the chair for Commissioner Aldridge. You did mention around the last meeting that you couldn't believe for the last however many months that this had been sitting on your...
Commissioner Aldridge. Oh, sorry, I was just seeking the advice of the CEO, so please continue asking your question. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to start again?
Yeah.
Okay, so through the chair to your Commissioner Aldridge.
Well,
yeah.
I'll determine where the question goes. Ask
yeah.
me, and then I
yeah.
bat it around.
Okay, cool.
So
Oh, no,
that's
all right.
how we
fine.
work. Yeah.
Yep, that's
No,
good.
thank you.
All right, so I'm just going to ask through the chair, please, that you did actually bring to the table, to the meeting last week where you voted against, a couple of weeks ago, where you voted against the motion in regards to the COVID investigation. My question around that, and you actually brought into this the measles vaccination, how there's been an increase. Back in 2019, there was an even more severe case of measles coming around prior to COVID starting, which there wasn't the vaccine hesitancy that you actually suggested. So with that, I've got some numbers here. With the year to date, there is 54 cases from up until the 8th of December.
Okay, so let's
I'm getting
let's
to
try
my
and get to the question.
and
Yeah,
I'm
thank you.
entitled to actually backstory it.
Well, actually, I determine how the questions will be run, ma'am. So I'm just, as I said in my opening statement, we're trying with 15 minutes for question time.
Yeah.
We want fair and equitable. Some level of preamble, absolutely. But I just, I've tried now, this is our 5th meeting. I am trying to give everyone an opportunity to ask their questions. So let's try and get to a question. Thanks. You can, as I said before, if you have very complex questions and long questions, you're very welcome to submit them in writing beforehand or correspond with us in other ways. So yeah, just like I say, really trying to give everybody an opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah. And with that, my opportunity would probably be quicker if I wasn't interrupted. But anyway, so...
I'm the chair and very entitled to chair the meeting as I see fit.
And I'm a public...
I will say, ma'am, if I determine if this is not a very orderly way, we ask questions. I make rulings if I find language objectionable or in some way defamatory or offensive, and I also have a responsibility for the conduct of question time. Now, I think it's very reasonable to ask people to try and make their questions succinct and orderly and be respectful of other members in the public gallery who may also want to ask questions. I am the chair, I have the call, I determine where questions go, and I would ask you to work with us on that. That is the way that the Town of Port Hedland would like to run its meetings. So thank you for your cooperation on that. Please go ahead to finalise your question.
Yep, okay, so with that, there's been misinformation in regards to how the measles has probably been impacted, and it's not actually necessarily a lack of vaccines. Anyway, my question is, do you know how the motion of the COVID investigation came about?
Commissioner Aldridge.
Yes, I understand that the motion was passed at an electors meeting, and if I recall correctly, there were 8 people in support of the motion.
Yep, cool.
Thank you, and that was technically your final question. So thank you very much. If you have further questions on this matter, you're very welcome, as I say, to submit them, send them to us in writing. Thanks very much. Are there any other questions?
Good evening, Commissioners and Acting CEO and staff. Jan Kuchera Gillingham, I should say, from Symonds Street, Cook Point. So thank you for this evening's meeting. I just have 3 short questions, if I may. I'd like to first say, you have just mentioned, Commissioner, and announced that there will be booths at both Port and South Hedland regarding the elections. Could you please state if this is both walk-in and postal votes, or one or the other? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Ms Gillingham. My understanding is it's a postal election, so broad-based, and that this detail is gone into in the paper. So it is a postal election, but at the booths in both Port Hedland and South Hedland, there will be what's called replacement ballot papers made available for people that don't have their postal ballots available. I might just throw to the CEO for any further information he might like to share on that matter.
Thank you, Presiding Member. You are correct. If I can just perhaps refer it directly through to the Director of Corporate Services, Manager of Governance, perhaps to speak in detail in relation to the election proposal.
Thank you, CEO. Yes, we will have the replacement ballots available at both Port Hedland and South Hedland, so electors can request, if they haven't received them, they be reissued. They can complete them there and drop them off into the ballot box at either Port or South.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, I did hear an announcement, Commissioner, Chair, to the Chair, regarding the minutes of the last meeting, as the unconfirmed meeting minutes of the council meeting should really be published within 14 days of the meeting held in November. I just wanted to know what the question is. My question is, why of the delay for the minutes of the last meeting?
Yeah, thank you. I'll throw to the CEO. I asked the same question.
Thank you. Manager Governance, if you could deal with that one, please.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. The publishing of the minutes on the website is required within 14 days. The requirement for those minutes to be confirmed is at the next ordinary council meeting or special meeting, as it might be. However, that is offset by the words "where practicable." So given that we have had a less than two-week turnaround, the creation and the publishing of this agenda has been the priority for the team in that regard, and I believe the minutes are available on the website, published within the 14-day period.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. My final question is in relation to our lovely Sunday afternoon at the Marina. Congratulations to the community committee that came together, amazing community carols, and thank you, Commissioner, for your announcements on the evening. I'd just like to ask, how involved can we have the town of Port Hedland be for this next event in Christmas next year? Because it's such a lot of hard work, but this is a community carols. The community carols were always a community carols, but over the years it seems to be that each group that does the carols have to sort of apply for funding. So I've sort of been part of that before, but I just want to know, can this really be looked into so that by having a community-based committee, that the town of Port Hedland actually have more involvement? I know there has been some involvement, and thank you so much. We think now that the marina has been christened, and for an amazing event, and it now shows that that is a place to actually have that. Also, the Care for Hedland people were there, so we knew that the lighting, when it came to turtles, were good. So that's all I want to say about that, Commissioner. I will say a little bit more in a short statement after, but thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, the CEO.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind perhaps writing directly through to the Chief Executive Officer, so that we consider that and put something forward for the Commission to consider in relation to what those future budgetary considerations could be and what you're outlining, then our officers can put together a response for the Council.
That would be great. Yeah, thank you, CEO. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Hi, please state your name and address.
Lorraine Butson, 50 Greenpeace, South Hedland. I have 3 questions. My first question is, and I'm sorry that I haven't been able to do it because I was one of the ones that had my car stolen the other night, so I've been pretty busy. First question is, in the last week, Forest Circle through to Mitchie Crescent, Frisbee Court and all the surrounding lawn areas around the CPD South Hedland, the sprinklers are coming on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, between 3 and 5. I'm just wondering if the times can be changed, that it's actually watered about 3 a.m. in the morning when it should be.
Firstly, I'm very sorry to hear that you've had a really bad experience. So that would have been shocking. So I'm sorry you've experienced that. I will turn to the CEO for a response on the timing of sprinklers.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I can just direct that through to the Director of Infrastructure Services, please.
I think at this time of the year they actually get watered twice, and so we do them in the afternoon, and that cools it down. But they do come on early in the morning as well. And part of the issue is some of it has to be staged just because of the capacity of the line and the pressure. So.
It's just that with the current heat that actually burns and it doesn't water, it evaporates. So it's probably not the right time that when the heat's on, especially of lately because it's been up to 45 degrees. So my second question is, to do with the CPD in South Hedland. I've only noticed it because I've been at the hospital decorating our ward for Christmas over the last 2 nights, around Forest Circle, the taxi rank, around the skate park and around all those areas. I'm just wondering if we can contact Horizon Power to check the lights, because none of them are actually working at night now and it's actually really quite dark. With the crime that's going on, it would probably be better to be lit. Yeah.
I will say, we would be very happy, I'm quite sure, to make the inquiries, but you can also talk to Horizon Power yourself. Like, you can raise it with them, but I'm sure that we can raise it. CEO?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll be happy to take that up for you. Thank you. And your third question?
Is to Commissioner Aldridge. I'd like to thank you for opening and your speech at the carols on Sunday. I'm just wondering, do you have a medical background at all?
Commissioner Aldridge.
I assume you're asking if I'm some form of clinician. No, I'm not. But my background with respect to health is, for some years I was the Shadow Minister for Regional Health in the State Parliament, and obviously both Commissioner Shaw and I were members of State Parliament during the COVID response year, so obviously public health was quite a focus of the Parliament and the state at that time.
Okay, thank you.
I can attest that he was a thorn in the side of the government. Are there any further questions? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Thank you, Camillo Blanco.
Oh, sorry, I will just say, just to note that we have exceeded 15 minutes for question time, but obviously there is quite a bit of interesting questions, so I'm happy to extend the time up to a maximum of 60 minutes. So please, go ahead, Mr. Blanco.
18 Harwell Way, Wedgfield. At the last meeting and tonight a number of times you've stated that if question askers have multiple questions, then they can send those questions in to the commissioners, obviously before the meeting. Now, at the last council meeting on the 26th, the acting CEO's appointment was discussed. Now, I sent a list of questions to commissioners on the 27th of November, so, 13 days ago. And I haven't received any responses, and they weren't in the list of questions tonight. So can I ask why I haven't had any response or to questions asked as you have stated us to do?
Okay, thank you for the question. Firstly, the correspondence that you sent us on Friday was not submitted as part of the ordinary council meeting process. That was an email correspondence that you sent us with a series of questions. So
That's right.
Those questions weren't taken, so therefore it's not appropriate that they then be part of the OCM process. So that, I suppose, is in part answer to your question. Also in answer to your question, we received the questions, we are preparing an answer, and we will correspond with you directly to provide you with that answer. And your second question?
Well, because I received no response, I'll ask one of them now. Can you tell me which one of your commissioners appointed or told the acting CEO that he had the job in Hedland before the official decision was made on the 26th council meeting, item 15.1?
We made the decision to appoint Mr. Donohoe at the council meeting. I don't know whether you hung around for the rest of that meeting after you left after public time, but actually we were behind closed doors for quite some time working out the terms upon which we would offer Mr. Donohoe a position. So Mr. Donohoe was in Port Hedland, had been engaged as an advisor to the CEO and to the council for the week prior, but there was no offer of the position or there was no decision to offer him a position ahead of that actual meeting. So we made the decision on the night behind closed doors. We spent quite some time nutting out the terms of the contract, and then that was provided by myself to Mr Donohoe on the Friday, I believe it was, so the 2 days after the meeting.
Can the acting CEO explain why he told a current serving council member that he had already received confirmation that he had been appointed to the acting CEO's role on the 23rd of November, 3 or 4 days before the formal council resolution? So, and why he stated he'd be attending the administration on the Monday, the 24th, to start the official handover. And can you explain what section of the Act authorises that process? Because I'm interested, you know, because I've appointed
Well,
a few.
there's two questions there. So your last question is technically out of order. As I explained to you, the CEO was up the week prior to the OCM under a contract. He was employed by the town as a special advisor to the CEO. No decision was made about his appointment prior to that Wednesday evening. The contract was sent to him and the offer was made on the Friday of that week, and he started with us on the Monday. Beyond that, I'll throw to the CEO.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I was given a specific contract to work as an advisor to the acting Chief Executive Officer, Mr Dacombe. I worked that position for a week. I was not given a formal contract until the council had resolved such. I did work in advance of that in a different role for a week's period.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Hi, please state your name and address.
Good evening, my name is Gillian Fisher and I reside in South Hedland. Just a few questions through Commissioner Shaw to Commissioner Aldridge, if possible, and following on from the questions that were asked previously by Marion Browning.
Yes, fire away. Well, you can ask me the questions and I'll, as I say, it's my discretion where they get batted to, but it sounds like I know where we're going to be going. So I'd advise Commissioner Aldridge to listen up.
No, that's right. Mr Aldridge, you said that only 8 people supported the special electors meeting motion that came from the floor at the annual electors meeting this year, this year. Can you tell me how many people in total attended the special electors meeting, not including the current elected members who generally refrain from voting in these situations to, to contend their balanced view on the subject?
Thank you for the question. Commissioner Aldridge.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and I'm sure you'll be aware that this is a matter of public record, so this is something that you'd be able to access yourself from the Town of Port Hedland's website. But nevertheless, according to the minutes of the meeting, electors in attendance on my count was 10 people.
Right, so 8 out of 10.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. Your second question.
Okay, so the next question is, and I'm following on from a question about the upcoming election, which is very exciting. What steps have been taken by the Town of Port Hedland to prevent theft of postal ballots from letterboxes and falsely completed and submitted ballots?
That's an excellent question. I'm not sure that the Town of Port Hedland can do anything in terms of the security of letterboxes located on private property, but I will just throw that question to the CEO.
Thank you. I know, and I know there have been issues in other local governments where that has been a matter, but if I can just perhaps for the postal point of view, just refer that to the Manager of Governance.
Thank you, through the chair. I guess at this point in time, we're yet to appoint the WAC, subject to the motion being considered this evening by the commissioners. Contact will be made to advise the WAC of that appointment, and we'll work through a process with them of selecting a highly skilled and experienced returning officer. That is a first level of probity, I guess, that will apply to the process. Initial discussions have also been had around some further consultancy that might be sought to provide some further probity in terms of the moving of the ballot box from location A to location B when necessary. However, broadly speaking, all of those provisions are provided for in the returning officer's manual, which is widely available on the website. There are stringent security requirements around both securing ballot boxes and also transporting them and opening them with certain levels of scrutiny available as well. So by and large, we appoint the WAC to manage the probity of our election, and we will also be looking at further steps that we can take.
Thank you. And your third question?
Unfortunately, my question wasn't answered. I think the governance director sort of got the wrong idea from what I was actually, so maybe I didn't explain myself properly.
Sure.
The action, it was the steps to prevent theft of postal ballots from letterboxes, not from postal boxes in here. We have had a situation where people, because it's held during school holidays and those sorts of things, people come home from holidays, find their ballot missing, come obviously that you do to downstairs and ask for an extra ballot, and then when it's submitted, no, you've actually already voted. And when these people haven't even been in town to do so, we need some sort of steps, whether it's in-person voting or whatever.
Right, so I do understand the question. I do think this is more appropriately a matter for the West Australian Electoral Commission. This is not an issue that's necessarily confined to the town of Port Hedland. I live in the city of Swan some time ago, many years ago. There was an instance of someone being observed stealing ballots out of letterboxes. That happened many years ago. This, I do believe, though, is a more appropriate question for the West Australian Electoral Commission as to how they verify the right of electors to turn up and seek a replacement ballot. That is much more appropriately, I understand, the role of the West Australian Electoral Commission, but I will throw to the CEO.
Through the chair, Presiding Member, I believe you've answered that correctly. We would deal with that through, if the council considers that matter tonight, that's a matter that's under the jurisdiction of the WA Electoral Commission, and if there was some other issue, a future court of bid returns, but I'll allow that matter to be answered by the Commissioner or the Commissioner staff.
Look, it's a fair question, and as I say, this evening we will be considering the appointment of the WAEC to the process, and we will be engaging with the WAEC about where they'll be having the additional ballot locations, and this is certainly something that we can discuss with them, and I think we would be quite happy to provide you with some sort of once we've had those discussions with the WAC and asked the question, I think we'd be very happy to forward you the response we receive from them. Would that help?
Yeah, I'd be very interested in that, because if we can't we need to have some sort of in-person voting like we do for state or federal government.
Great, thank you. Thanks very much. Are there any further questions? All right, there being no further questions, I declare public question time closed at 6:16 p.m. CEO, have we received any public statements?
Presiding Member, we've received none in writing.
Okay, do any members of the public wish to make a statement? Please come forward, state your name and address.
Thank you. Camillo Blanco, Harwell Way, Wedgefield. Now, Commissioners, just off the cuff, you talk about members of the public having multiple questions and then if they do, sending emails to you so you can consider those questions previously. Now you're adding more to it. If you want people to send you questions because they got multiple questions, explain it a little bit better, and maybe they'll have to title it. So then those questions go into the agendas of the meeting. What is the point of engaging with the council when the council doesn't publicise it or there's no record of it? I've never done that before, all right? I've always wanted it on the record. So, you know, for the commissioners to state, send you the questions and then there's no response at all, you know, it's clearly saying one thing and doing another, in my opinion currently, because that's what I'm seeing. In relation to some questions that were asked tonight, the minutes of the meetings, you know, the Local Government Act and the regs are quite clear. There is no grey area. Reg 13 says that publication of unconfirmed minutes of the meeting, the CEO must publish on the government website. And so 13.2, it says the unconfirmed minutes of the meeting must be published within 14 days, must be published within 14 days. 14 days is today, so it should have been published today. There's no grey area there at all. Now, in relation to tonight's agenda, there is a request for a proposal by the CEO, the purpose of the reports to consider the operational and organisational health, you know, check, independently investigate and prepare a report on compliance and effectiveness of the operational practices of the town of Port Hedland. That is a great item. That is something that I was trying to get, you know, put forward. It says that the temporary CEO seeks council support to provide funds to produce an independent advice on relation to the town's affairs and performance and so on. You guys need to support that and apply those funds clearly, because I gave you a long list of issues that I'd submitted, but that was just part of a long list of stuff that I've done over the past 18 months. It's extensive, and the Minister for Local Government, the Department of Local Government, and the regulators, they've all got it and they've done zero. So thanks, you're here 5 minutes and you're already kicking goals, in my opinion. So now, just in relation to that, you know, it's hard for me to read that sort of stuff. And then, you know, because the council, or the majority of the council, has been demonised over the last 18 months, saying that we're dysfunctional, continuously saying that we're dysfunctional, when in actual fact, we were trying to hold people to account for spending money not in the budget, all of that sort of stuff. It's all in that email that I sent you. And to continually say that it was a council issue, and then this comes up, clearly there might have been some issues with the council or members of the council, but there was clearly issues with the administration of the town of Port Hedland. So I'm really happy that that's going through, and I hope you support.
You have 45 seconds.
That's all I have.
Okay, well, just for clarity, we're actually not adding anything more to the conduct of public question time, as I think I very clearly explained, and as someone who's had extensive experience, apparently, in local government, everything I described tonight is within the Local Government Act, the regulations, the standing orders and the local law. I've added nothing to it whatsoever. What I have done is try to explain how the processes operate for those who may not currently or be very familiar with it, or who may have forgotten how the processes operate over time. The point of the process that I outlined tonight, you asked what is the point of the process, It is to ensure that everyone gets a fair and equitable opportunity to ask questions and that we run orderly, respectful and well-run meetings. That's the point of it all. Now, insofar as you receiving no response at all, I did in my answers to questions outline that we were preparing a response to written correspondence and we would be sending that to you. Your statement around the publication of the minutes was answered by the Manager of Regulatory Services, and I think he did answer that. And thank you very much for your support for our action taken to address organisational health. I would observe that governance is a really, really important issue and has been front of mind for this Commission, and hence why it is that we've chosen to make that the focus of our time here as Commissioners, and not other issues that perhaps don't have as much to do with the orderly good governance and the provision of the services and infrastructure of the people of Town Hedland need, the people of the town of Port Hedland need and deserve. Are there any further public statements? Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner. Jan Kuchera-Gillingham in 3 Simmons Street, Cook Point, Port Hedland. I'd like to say welcome to our acting CEO, Mr. Donohoe. We have crossed paths before, a long time ago, when first being on council. I think the only difference is that both our hairs have gone the same colour. So, so if we do show our age, but we're still 18 inside, I think, yeah. But thank you. Thank you for being here and to make things complete and work forward for us in town. Look, we come to our council meetings because we care. We care. We've cared for a long time. It's my 40th year here in Port Hedland. People behind me have lived here. They've been to school here. Some have been to school here. I know Camilo Blanco's been to school here and spent a lot of time doing things for the community over the years. But we care. So the questions we ask is only because we care. Where is everybody else? It's getting towards Christmas time, and there's all Christmas concerts on tonight with all the School of the Air parents are in, because I'm involved with them. We've got our concert tomorrow, and then they all travel back on Friday. So it's a small town, but it's a busy place, as we know that. As I've said before, we are the engine room of Australia, but we don't seem to get noticed that way. A very simple thing is, can we please find out from the TV commercial stations that we don't seem to even get a little blurb on there to say that we're Port Hedland. ABC does, but it's just something which continuously writing to Channel 9, Channel 7, Channel 10, hello, we are on the map of West Australia, but, you know, Broome gets it, and, but, you know, we've been here since 1896, so, you know, we're coming up for big birthdays for Port Hedland and that. So just want to fill you in on a few things like that. Look, the marina on Sunday, brilliant. Once it got dark, there's no lighting on the pathways. I know I'd love the director to let us know next time, you know, is there a problem because you're having a playground built, but I haven't seen any footpath lighting there at all since the marina's been in position. Is that something that's going to come? So look, it's quite dangerous. A lot of the pathways are blocked off at the moment, so you know, that needs to be looked at as well. So I know that we have lighting for the turtles, which is good, but this is way, way back by the road, so I'd really like council to look at that. Commissioners, if you would like look into that. It's a great place. Look, yesterday evening, all the parents from School of the Air, from Corona Downs Station, from Bonnie Downs Station, from Yarrie Station, and further front, had a beautiful barbecue down in the breeze yesterday afternoon. They managed to get together. Their kids played and that, you know. So look, it's a great venue. Personally, I think the new playground is just way over the top. I mean, great that it wasn't being used on Sunday, because once it gets used and you're going to have a concert down there, it's going to be pretty noisy from that playground. I really think that they should have stuck to the first plans to have had the playground that we had sort of looked at. But we're allowed to say these things in our statement time. I'll be as quick as I can, Commissioner. Thank you for the response regarding the financial review. It was Honourable John Bowler back in 2005. It was about August, September, that actually sat down with new councillors. I was one of them, and actually presented us a huge, massive financial review, which he had done. So that was a review. Whether it was a full audit, I can't say exactly at that time, but it was given to us, presented to us, and then Mr. Chris Adams came in at the time and became our CEO, and then we moved forward. So I just wanted to mention, thank you for that mention that you looked into that. Yes, so listening to the radio yesterday, Premier Cook with regard to
Have 1 minute.
Thank you. The Osprey Village in South Headland, we need to double that, triple it even more. We have 50 teachers living in the Osprey service worker village. They have not had their teachers' housing built in over 15 years. That really needs to be looked at. It has been talked to with Premier Cook before, yeah. But look, thank you also to Director Lee Furness for a mention tonight of an answer to one of my questions recently about fresh water regarding our bird life and wildlife and that. So thank you very much for that. Pretty much that's all I really have to say. So thank you very much. We do care. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will say, every single day that we're up here, it's very apparent that people do care very deeply about not only what's happening right now, but about the future of their community. And it does depend on people such as yourselves continuing to come forward and ask us constructive questions and provide constructive feedback. We note your comments with respect to the marina. In terms of Port Hedland getting a mention, I do believe that the Prime Minister's brought the Cabinet here twice, and so we certainly made the news when the Federal Cabinet was here. And similarly, Premier has brought his team up here as well. It's tough. I will say, Channel 9, well, full disclosure, my uncle is the CEO of Channel 9. Recently appointed, and I was with him only a few weeks ago, or actually he was here for the cricket, and I was telling him about Port Hedland, and he had no idea. He's like, God, so I was really saying to him that it is a place that really does warrant a lot of attention, and it is the engine room. I think you're quite right. Thank you for the information about John Bowler, and housing in Hedland. Absolutely. It is every single conversation that we have is about housing. We acknowledge it as such a critical need here, and across the regions and across the whole state, probably the whole nation, but absolutely I would say it's probably the most commonly mentioned matter to us. So thank you for the comment. Are there any further public statements? Hi, please state your name and address.
Hello, Gillian Fisher from South Headland. Just continuing on with the theme of my questioning for Commissioner Aldridge. I'm quite excited actually that we're actually having this discussion and that there is the launch of the Port Hedland, Town of Port Hedland Public Health Plan. I've printed off some pages for my notes and I've actually been reading through it and everything. I find it's got a lot of potential and how we can actually utilise this public health plan to our community's advantage. One thing, this has been, the public health plan is actually I think it's on the first or second page, I'm not quite sure. No, sorry, I'm on page 11 here. So it quite goes with the special electors meeting motion and the point number 1 on page 11. So it's the 6 points of the 6 potential roles that the town can adopt to achieve its public health objectives and promote a healthier community. Now, the primary, the number 1 place setter is advocator. The town acts as, and I'm just reading verbatim from the report, the town acts as the leadership voice for the Hedland community, promoting local public health needs and aspirations to relevant government agencies, health authorities and industry stakeholders. This includes advocating for improved services, funding and policy changes that support better health outcomes. So virtually when you look at that, the public health plan, the Town of Port Hedland Public Health Plan actually aligns with those motions that the special electors brought up at the meeting. So that's just leading on from what we were discussing at the last meeting. Now, one thing that I did want to discuss, and I'm hoping that the commissioners actually know about this, and if they don't, that'll be something for them to investigate of their own volition. Under the Town of Port Hedland Public Health Plan must align with the WA Public Health Act of 2016. And then when you actually get into the Public Health Act of 2016, Part 11, which outlines serious public health incident powers, I'm just going to bring your attention to section 161. Authorised officer may be given assistance and may use force. So working on from point 4 of that, I apologise for my lack of understanding of actually how to cite this thing, but it's part 4, it's on page 129 if you'd like to have a look. It says, without limiting subsection 3, the force that an authorised officer or police officer or person assisting may use includes any force that is reasonably necessary to use in the circumstances to overcome any resistance to the enforcement of compliance with a requirement or direction, including enabling a medical examination or medical treatment to be carried out or a vaccination to be given that is offered by the person to whom the requirement or direction applies, or that the authorised officer or police officer or person assisting reasonably suspects will be offered by that person. So I'm just quite nervous. It does, I'm impressed that our staff of the Town of Port Hedland have put together such an interesting public health plan that of course we can take further on to the community. But anchoring that is that section 161, where virtually a person who disagrees with
45 seconds.
taking that, yes, thank you, person that disagrees with taking a vaccination can be forcibly held down and given it whether they like it or not. So thank you. Something to think about.
Thank you for your statement. I will say, one of the provisions of the local government, the standing orders that I went through earlier today, was that public statements need to be with respect to matters of the local government, and the actions of police and the utilisation of force has nothing to do with the Town of Port Hedland. So any provisions that seek to determine what powers West Australian Police do and don't have is not a matter of local government. The Town of Port Hedland's public health plan is very specifically targeted to the appropriate steps that a local government agency can take with respect to the protection of community and public health. So technically, I do think that your statement when we strayed into territory about utilisation of powers under the WA Public Health Act, that is with respect to the state government and not the local government. But nonetheless, I do appreciate that you're clearly passionate about the matter, and I thank you for your statement. Are there any other public statements? Please come forward, state your name and address.
Merrin Browning, South Hedland. So this will be very short. So we talk about good governance in local government means genuinely listening. Not treating every uncomfortable question like something to be swiftly returned to sender. Fairness and equity only work when conversation does too. What's challenging to watch is the quick tick and flick approach with no debate. It naturally creates perception that trust and transparency may be taking an unscheduled day off. And while we can all agree housing is a real issue, that one does sit firmly within the state government's jurisdiction. Thank you.
I think if you do review the standing orders are really quite explicit that public question time and public statement time are not a time for debate. So that's quite explicit in the standing orders. So that is not something that we have control over. That's what the Local Government Act, the regulations, the local law and the standing orders require. So they're the standing orders. We are genuinely listening, and we continue to, and not just in council meetings, but in all of our engagements across the town of Port Hedland. And I will not apologise for chairing meetings with fairness and equity and encouraging as much participation and fairness in that as possible. Are there any other public statements? There being no further public statements, I declare public statement time closed at 6:37 p.m. Okay, item 7. Are there any questions from commissioners? There being no questions from commissioners. Item 9. I invite all commissioners to declare by show of hands they've given due consideration to all matters contained within the agenda. Thank you. Item 10, as we've discussed in the previous session, the minutes of the 26th November 2025 Ordinary Council meeting will be confirmed at the January 2026 Ordinary Council meeting due to the time constraints that we have foreshadowed, but they will be published they are up, they're being published in the unconfirmed state, which is in accordance with the Local Government Act. Okay, item 11, reports of committees. Audit, Risk and Compliance Committee, item 1.1.1. We have a recommendation as displayed on the screen that requires a simple majority vote. Could I have a mover?
So moved.
And a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Does any commissioner wish to speak to the motion? As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 11.1.2, we have a committee recommendation as displayed on the screen that requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover?
I'll also move the motion.
And a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Does any commissioner wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, can I make a
Commissioner Aldridge.
comment, please, Chair? With respect to this motion, we're not just receiving the minutes of the Audit, Risk and Compliance Committee, but we're also, there are two further limbs to the motion, which I just wanted to draw people's attention to, particularly the one with respect to us having a bit of a closer look at our debt recovery arrangements. We seem to have a pretty robust arrangement with respect to ratepayers, and the commissioners, and indeed the committee in this case, are quite keen to look at applying that more broadly to all debts within the town.
Yes, thank you for that. So we have asked the administration to look into that matter for us and to bring some further recommendations back to the Audit, Risk and Compliance Committee. As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 11.1.3, we have a committee recommendation as displayed on the screen that requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover?
So moved, Chair.
And a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Does the Commissioner wish to speak to the motion?
Yep.
As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by a simple majority. Item 12.1.1, Statement of Financial Activity. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on the screen that requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover?
I so move.
And a seconder?
Second, Chair.
And does anyone wish to speak to the motion? As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 12.1.2, Policy Review Program. We have an officer's recommendation displayed on the screen that requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover?
I so move the motion.
And a seconder?
Second.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I might. Please.
Commissioner Aldridge.
I think this is another one. I mean, I'm not sure what our tally's up to now in terms of policy review. I'm not sure we're quite halfway, but maybe soon. But this deals with 4 further policies, and importantly, in my view, revokes one which we consider no longer warranted. So the 3 policies that are listed in the first limb of the motion have been reviewed and there's no change recommended. The second limb of the motion, our intent here, if this motion passes, will be to revoke the policy with respect to caretaker period, and I guess to make people aware that it isn't that the town of Port Hedland won't have a caretaker period, it's that it is now a prescribed requirement in accordance with the Local Government Act. And so this policy would effectively just be regurgitating if we were to amend the Local Government Act, so therefore it's unnecessary. So I support the recommendation and reinforce the fact that indeed the town of Port Hedland will go into caretaker period in February.
Thank you. That's very helpful. As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 12.1.3, King's Birthday Public Holiday. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on the screen that requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover?
So moved, Chair.
And a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Does the Commissioner wish to speak to the motion? I do. I know that when this motion was considered last time, or I am told that there was a decision to potentially hold this over, or that there should be some form of community engagement. I acknowledge that this is potentially quite a controversial issue around having a public holiday associated with a horse racing activity, and there are a range of community views out there, and I think that it would be a good idea for community engagement to be undertaken in 2026 about that. It is not, there is, as I say, a wide variety of community views, so we've decided to go ahead with it for this year, but it would probably be a good idea for further community engagement to be conducted into 2026. As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by a simple majority. Item 12.1.4, WAC appointment for election, March 2026. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on the screen that requires an absolute majority vote. Can I have a mover?
I so move.
And a seconder?
I second.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Aldridge.
I just wanted to make a few brief comments on this, Chair. It's something that we have been given, it's occupied quite a significant amount of attention for the commissioners, because we want to make sure that the conduct of the election is the best possible and that we have really good engagement from the community at every level, that is enrolling to vote, that is participating in the election, whether it be by way of nominating to be a candidate, but also voting probably is the most important exercise that electors can do. I do want to reflect also that we have listened to the community, and this motion has been developed over time in direct response to community feedback, and that is that Hedland is more than Port Hedland, and it is important to have access to voting services in South Hedland, and I think we've been at pains to ensure that that is the case, and I do hope that when we settle on venues and the more specific arrangements with the WA Electoral Commission, that the community will benefit from having greater accessibility to voting in both Port Hedland and South Hedland. So I think this has improved over time. I think there's still work to be done with the Electoral Commission around the electoral process, but also we're quite focused on community engagement post-Christmas around the broader election.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. As the motion is not opposed, sorry, Commissioner Jurjevic, apologies.
Yeah, just a comment. Just re-emphasising note 4. We took on board public feedback in regards to South Hedland, and that's what you see in there. But I just want to note where it says the replacement ballot papers will be available at Port and South. It's also important to note that people can drop their own electoral packages on the day. They don't have to worry about posting it if they really don't want to, and they can actually go there and drop it in so that they are sure that it will be received for counting that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jurjevic. As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by absolute majority. Item 12.2, Community Services, Public Art Master Plan 2025 to 2035, item 12.2.1. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on screen that requires a simple majority. Can I have a mover?
So moved, Chair.
And a seconder?
I'll second.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
I will.
Yep, Commissioner Aldridge.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is, I think the first time that the town has had a public art master plan, and I think it's important for a couple of reasons. And I'm speaking on this motion. I don't think I'll ever be accused of being a creative, but but I think that there is merit in this proposal for a couple of reasons. One is the town has a local planning policy with respect to percent for public art, so we actually generate revenue from certain types of developments where we require them to make contributions to public art. So according to the financial statements that are tabled at this meeting, we're in excess of $460,000 in our public art reserve, and I think having a master plan will help focus and direct investments from that reserve account in the interests of the community. And I think more broadly, when we think about some of those key and core messages that we've heard since we've been here around livability and amenity and place building, many of those reflected in the council plan that we adopted earlier this year. I think whilst this may seem like perhaps an insignificant matter to some, I think it will be part of many things that help deliver a better headland for its electors.
Thank you. I'd just like to congratulate the Community Services team for completing it. I'm a big fan of the arts, and I once had quite a bit to do through my parliamentary secretary role in culture and the arts, and I do appreciate, both from my time then but then in our time here, that this community values the arts very deeply, and this is again one of those things that contributes towards making Port Hedland a vibrant and great place to live. So my congratulations to you and your team. As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 12.3, Regulatory Services, 12.3.1, Port Hedland Visitor Centre Quarterly Report 1, July to September 2025. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on the screen that requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover?
I so move.
And a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please.
Yes, Commissioner Aldridge.
I might just make a comment in relation to this matter, and that is particularly in the context of later on tonight we'll consider the improvement plan, and I think one of the themes in that is making sure that council has access to timely and appropriate information. And I do, as interested as I am in reading this report on a quarterly basis and seeing the good work that is done by the Port Hedland Visitor Centre, I wonder whether it is necessary and appropriate that council receives a quarterly report. Now, I understand there's some history to this issue, and it arises from the management agreement with the Port Hedland Peace Memorial Seafarers Centre Incorporated and the town of Port Hedland, but given that that arrangement will come to an end on the 1st of November 2026, I'm not suggesting that we change the current arrangement, but perhaps make the point that there might be some information that can be presented to council in other ways other than by a officer's recommendation and report, or perhaps changing the frequency of that information.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by a simple majority. Item 12.3.2, Town of Port Hedland Public Health Plan. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on screen that requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover?
So moved, Chair.
And a seconder?
Second the motion.
Does the Commissioner wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge.
Look, I do want to just touch on this motion tonight, and given there was some interest in it earlier this evening in public time, and interestingly, it reflects some of the comments that I made at last month's ordinary council meeting. I certainly didn't have access to the public health plan at that point in time, but it's interesting having considered it now. Many of the issues that I spoke about at the last ordinary council meeting with respect to the electors AGM motion have been reflected in not just the public health plan, but in the community survey that preceded it. I do want to just point out a couple of things in the plan, and that is if you look on, well, actually, I might address first some of the concern that was expressed with the public health plan in public statement time today. So it does say on page 9 that the town of Port Hedland's public health plan must align with the state public health plan. So I think where there might be some confusion is it was mentioned in public statement time that there's a specific provision in the Public Health Act with respect to vaccination. That is not what this is saying. This is referring to the public health plan of Western Australia, the state plan. So it can't be inconsistent with the state plan. So I guess if there are members of the community that believe there should be legislative change to statutes that belong to the state government, well, we have a local member of the Legislative Assembly, and we now have 37 members of the Legislative Council. So there's 38 state members of Parliament representing the town of Port Hedland, and I would encourage the community to advocate away to those members if they consider there should be changes to the Public Health Act of Western Australia. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and as I said, and as the community said tonight, advocacy is a really important function for the town. And when you look at the many significant chronic and preventable health conditions that are identified in the profiles in this report, we actually do have some really important health outcomes and health responses that we need to advocate for. One of those is quite interestingly highlighted on page 12, which says the rate of vaccine preventable disease notification is double the state average here in the town of Port Hedland. So that is very significant amongst many other things, including smoking, alcohol consumption, access to fresh fruit and vegetables, a whole range of other public health issues. The other thing that I wanted to just address, because it was a question that was raised in public question time today, was with respect to the electors meeting. So yes, there was 8 people who supported that motion out of the 10 present at the electors meeting. And I just remind members of the town of Port Hedland community that there's 8,900 electors in the town. So the 8 that supported that motion equates to 0.0008% of total electors. Now, it's also interesting when you look at the survey, if I can draw members of the public attention to the survey, some 341 responses, quite a strong response from the community. Of that, vaccine safety and vaccination generally were not significant matters that were raised by the community in the community survey. So I think if I can just close by reiterating the comments from in the last meeting, which is we do have some very serious public health matters to address here in the town of Port Hedland. And I think the adoption of this plan will help us focus on those things that will make the greatest difference.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by a simple majority. Item 12.3.3, Scheme Amendment number 7 to Local Planning Scheme number 7 for adoption, Lot 198, number 9, Skippers Loop, South Hedland. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on screen that requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover?
I so move.
And a seconder?
A second.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
I think he's cleaned up.
As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 12.4, Infrastructure Services, 12.4.1, RFT 252607, Tree Amenity Maintenance Program. We have an officer's recommendation that will be displayed on the screen upon decision that requires a simple majority vote. Ready? Can I have a mover
So moved, Chair.
and a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Would anyone like to speak to the motion? As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 12.5 Executive Services, 5.1, Council Improvement Plan. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on the screen that requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover?
I so move.
And can I have a seconder?
Second.
Commissioner wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Aldridge.
Chair, I just want to flag, I guess I want to put on the record tonight that by passing the officer's recommendation, it should not be perceived in any way, shape or form that the work with respect to council improvement is done. And in fact, the report that will go to the department will outline a number of areas that we still have work to do. And in fact, we won't even complete in our tenure. In fact, the new council will have to pick up and continue to work on some of those. And I think if I could just highlight three of the more significant ones, and that is with respect to how we might streamline the financial reporting to council, major project reporting, and also establishing a point will become redundant when we move to a statewide requirement with respect to communications agreements. But I think this is, and the officer's report does say the commissioners are currently in collaboration with administration to build on a recent progress and initiatives to support continued good governance, effective induction and ongoing development to set the incoming council up for success. So I think with those few words, I just wanted to reiterate that work is not, we're certainly not saying mission accomplished, but we're providing a report to the department with respect to phase 1 and flagging that there is still more work to be done.
Thanks, Commissioner Aldridge. Just like to reiterate those points. There's a lot of work to do here, and as the recommendation says, phase 1 we will write to the DLG about, but there is still work to do. As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 12.5.2, Organisational Health Check. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on the screen. It requires a simple majority vote. Can I have a mover? And a seconder?
I second the motion.
Would anyone like to speak to the motion? Sure, Commissioner Aldridge.
I'll say a few brief words. I'd like to thank the public for their support for this matter as evidenced in public statement time earlier tonight. I think it's important that we, particularly back to the last item, which is how does council improve, that this item will look more at the organisation more holistically. And I think this is, again, I guess to repeat myself, this is going to be a body of work that is not just a good thing to do, it's timely as we prepare for a transition of power at the next election to a locally elected council. This will have to be a project not just looking at council, but at the organisation more holistically. And so I guess through that prism, I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Commissioners, item 13, new business of an urgent nature, late items. Council's been requested to consider new business of an urgent nature, being the deferment of charging interest on overdue rates for the PHIA until January 2026 under clause 5.512 of the Standing Orders Local Law, PHIA Port Hedland International Airport. The reason is that interest begins accruing before the council could consider this at its next meeting. I move a motion to accept this new business of an urgent nature. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Before I might ask, I'll waive my right to speak to the motion, but ask the CEO to speak to the reason for this business. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, Presiding Member. And first of all, thank you for at least considering the late item. But it is an issue that's critical in relation to timing. And with that, I'd just like the Director of Corporate Services just to speak specifically to the reasons.
Thank you.
Thank you, through the Chair. The background to this report is the establishment of the Airport Rating Precinct as part of the 25-26 budget. And it was something which was imposed upon us by Landgate's Valuer General's change in issuing just a single valuation for the entire airport precinct. And that was something which both the town as well as the Port Hedland International Airport were opposed to, because we foresaw the administrative burden that it was going to place upon us. At the October OCM, Council endorsed a 30-day deferment of payment, so due to both the time taken for the town and the airport to work out what the charges were going to be, because the airport now needs to on-charge and collect before they can pay to us. I guess it's really not a capacity to pay matter, rather just a process to pay issue. So the airport has asked us for another 30-day extension because the time taken for them to actually put into place their processes, it just needs another 30 days to do that. So instead of allowing the interest to simply become charged and then to write it off, it's actually far more efficient to actually just pause that, which we're asking council to support.
Thank you, Mr Leeson. We have an officer's... are there any questions of Mr Leeson with respect to the statement? Thank you, Councillor Jurovich. Commissioner Jurovich, sorry.
Okay, I've been demoted.
It's getting late.
Okay, thank you. If you're going to stuff it up, call me Mayor, will you? Okay, thank you, Chair, but I'd just like it to be on public notice that I certainly won't be supporting any more extensions for this, because this comes to an operational matter and the town of Port Hedland's missing out on money. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jurovich. You wish to speak to the motion? No? Okay. As the motion is not opposed, I declare... Oh, sorry. We have an officer's recommendation as displayed on the screen that requires an absolute majority vote. Can I have a mover?
So move.
And a seconder?
Seconded.
As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by absolute majority. Item 14, motions of which previous notice has been given. There are none. Item 15, matters for which meeting may be closed, confidential matters. At this time, I'd like to move that Council close the meeting to members of the public as prescribed in section 5.232 of the Local Government Act 1995 to consider item 15.1, disposal of property, lease of former Port Hedland Yacht Club. Can I have a mover?
I so move.
And a seconder?
Seconded.
As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. I ask that all members of the public leave chambers at this time, but you're welcome to remain in the lobby until Council reconvenes. Thank you. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Council discussed item 15.1, disposal of property lease of former Port Hedland Yacht Club. The recommendation is as displayed on the screen. The motion was carried. Item 16, meeting closure, date of next meeting. The next ordinary meeting of Council will be held on Wednesday, 28th of January 2026, commencing at 5:30 p.m. I thank Commissioners, members of the public, the CEO and the staff for their attendance. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 7:09 p.m. Thank you.